What if I told you that our entire official history might be incomplete? That somewhere in dusty archives there is evidence capable of turning our understanding of the past upside down? Today, we will examine one such artifact, a map. A map drawn 500 years ago that depicts a land officially discovered 3 centuries later. And the most incredible part? It shows this land free of ice. Welcome all truth seekers to our channel. We are here to ask the questions that mainstream science doesn't always have answers for. Before we dive into this incredible mystery, take a second to hit the subscribe button and the bell. That way, you'll join our community of explorers and never miss a single mysterious journey into the past. Our story begins in 1929 at the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. While cataloging the old library, a group of historians stumbled upon a forgotten fragment of a map, drawn on a piece of gazelle skin parchment. This wasn't just any map. It was the work of an admiral and cartographer of the Ottoman Empire named Piri Reis, and it was dated to the year 1513. At first glance, it's an impressive but perfectly understandable document. It depicts the western coasts of Africa, the eastern coast of South America, and the northern Atlantic with astonishing accuracy for its time. In his notes in the margins, Piri Reis honestly admits that he compiled his map using about 20 older source maps. Some of them, he claimed, dated back to the time of Alexander the Great. This fact alone is mind-boggling. What knowledge was held in the ancient libraries that were burned to the ground? But let's shift our gaze from what is known and understood to the very bottom of the parchment. This is where logic and conventional history begin to break down. Here, where South America should have ended, something strange happens. Instead of logically concluding, outlining the southern tip of the continent, Cape Horn, and heading west into the Pacific Ocean, the coastline makes a sharp, unnatural curve to the east, continuing as if a huge landmass exists there. For decades, this oddity was dismissed as a cartographer's error, or a product of his wild imagination. After all, in the 16th century, there were no precise instruments, and many maps contained inaccuracies. This mystery would have remained just a footnote in history books until the 1950s, when a man who was used to looking at history from a different angle began to study the map. His name was Charles Hapgood, a professor of the history of science at Keene State College in New Hampshire. Working with his students, Hapgood didn't just accept the error explanation at face value. He asked himself, what if it's not a mistake? What if Piri Reis copied what was on his ancient source maps with the utmost accuracy? At first, Hapgood and his students were stumped. They tried to straighten out this coastline, assuming it was a distorted representation of the coast of Argentina and Patagonia. But the details didn't add up. The rivers and bays depicted on this mysterious land did not match the known geography of South America. And then, after many months of work, Hapgood put forward a hypothesis that was initially considered complete absurdity in academic circles. He declared this mysterious land is not a distorted South America. It is the northern coast of Antarctica. Let's pause for a moment to grasp the full depth of this statement. The map is dated 1513. And now get this. The official date of Antarctica's discovery is January 28, 1820, when the ships of the Russian expedition led by Fabian Gottlieb von Bellingshausen and Michal Lazarev first approached its shores. Almost 307 years passed between the creation of the Piri Reis map and the official discovery of the ice continent. 3 long centuries. In 1513, when Piri Reis was drawing his map, Antarctica was not just undiscovered to the European and Asian world, it was unimaginable. A gigantic ice continent hidden behind the turbulent, impassable seas of the roaring 40s and furious 50s latitudes. No known ship of that era could have made it there and back. So how in heaven's name could an Ottoman admiral working in his study in Istanbul depict a continent on his map that humanity would not officially see for another 3 centuries? This question alone is enough to blow your mind, but as Hapgood soon discovered, this was only the beginning. The answer to this question is even more shocking than the mystery itself, and it lies not in what is depicted, but in how it is depicted. But even the incredible fact that Piri Reis knew of Antarctica's existence 300 years before its discovery pales in comparison to Hapgood's next finding. Studying the mysterious coastline, he noticed something even stranger. It showed details, river mouths, bays, perhaps even mountain ranges. But on a modern map of Antarctica, none of this exists. There's only a vast monolithic ice cap, up to 4 kilometers thick in some places. And then it dawned on Hapgood. The Piri Reis map did not depict the continent we see today. It depicted the coast of Antarctica, free of ice. This idea was so wild, so contradictory to everything history and geology knew, that Hapgood understood he would be ridiculed without proof. He needed evidence, and he decided to turn to those who had the most advanced cartographic technologies of the time. In 1953, gathering his courage, Professor Charles Hapgood wrote a letter to the United States Air Force. To the cartography department, he attached a copy of the map and asked a direct question. Could the Air Force experts assess how well this ancient map corresponds to what we know about the actual terrain of Antarctica, hidden beneath the ice? At the time, this was cutting-edge science. Shortly before, in 1949, a joint Swedish-British Antarctic expedition had conducted the first ever comprehensive seismic survey of the ice sheet. Using sound waves, scientists essentially created the first echo image of the land buried under kilometers of ice. This data was classified, but the USF Cartography Department knew about it. The response Hapgood received was not just a polite dismissal. It was an official letter signed by Lieutenant Colonel Harold Ohlmeyer, and its contents were stunning. Ohlmeyer wrote, and I quote, "We have found your request to be very interesting. The geographical detail shown in the lower part of the map agrees very remarkably with the results of the seismic profile made across the top of the ice cap by the Swedish-British Antarctic expedition of 1949. He added, "This indicates the coastline had been mapped before it was covered by the ice cap." Let's stop and process this. An official representative of the U.S. Air Force with access to the most modern data confirmed the line drawn by an Ottoman admiral in 1513 on a piece of gazelle skin corresponds to the real terrain of the land under a 2-kilometer thick ice sheet. According to modern geology, the last time Queen Maud Land, the very part of Antarctica depicted on the map, was free of ice was no later than 4000 BC. That is, at least 6,000 years ago. Some geologists place this period even further back to the 10th millennium BC. Now let's connect all the dots. We have a 16th century map, which according to its creator, he compiled from even ancient sources dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. This map shows a continent that would only be officially discovered in the 19th century, and it shows it as it existed at least 4,000 years before the birth of Christ. This information was unavailable to anyone in 1513. It only became available to humanity in 1949 with the advent of seismic sounding technology. How is this possible? It is here that Charles Hapgood's theory transitions from a bold hypothesis to the only logical, albeit radical, explanation. Piri Reis could not have known this. Christopher Columbus, whose maps he used, could not have known this. Even the cartographers of Alexander the Great's time could not have seen this, as Antarctica was already covered in ice in their era. This means that the source maps that formed the basis of the Piri Reis map were created much, much earlier. They were created by an unknown, highly advanced seafaring civilization that existed on Earth in those distant times when Antarctica was a green continent. A civilization that possessed the knowledge and technology to map the entire planet thousands of years before the Egyptians and Sumerians. A civilization's knowledge and its very existence were almost completely wiped from the face of the Earth by a global cataclysm, perhaps the very one that caused the sudden cooling that forever bound Antarctica in ice. Of course, when faced with such an incredible theory as the existence of a prehistoric civilization of cartographers, the mainstream scientific and historical communities could not stand aside. And, in all fairness, they have their own, more down-to-earth explanations for the anomaly on the Piri Reis map. To understand the full picture, we must consider them. First, skeptics rightly point out that the map, for all its wonders, is far from perfect. It contains a number of clear and undeniable errors. For example, the massive Drake Passage between the tip of South America and the mysterious southern land is missing. It's simply not depicted. The Caribbean is also questionable. Cuba is drawn vertically and is almost unrecognizable, and other islands seem chaotically scattered and out of proportion. The skeptic's argument is simple and logical. If the cartographer made such serious mistakes in regions that were well known at the time, why should we believe that a mysterious and unknown part of the map is super accurate? Based on this, the most popular scientific counter-argument arises. It states that the mysterious land to the south is not Antarctica at all. According to this theory, Piri Reis, working on a limited-sized piece of parchment, simply ran out of space. Upon reaching the south tip of South America, instead of cutting the map off, he simply bent the remaining coastline of Argentina and Patagonia to the east, fitting it into the remaining space. This was a common practice for cartographers of that time. This version is supported by the fact that some river mouths and bays on this bent part do vaguely resemble real features on the Argentine coast. But this theory, for all its elegance, leaves a key question unanswered. Why are the style and accuracy of this supposed bent part so strikingly different from the rest of South America on the same map? And why do its outlines so closely match the sub-glacial relief of a continent that Piri Reis could not have possibly known about? And here is where all rational explanations begin to crumble. None of these official theories, neither the bent post nor the mythical land, can convincingly explain the astonishing similarity, confirmed by the U.S. Air Force experts, between a line on a 1513 map and the sub-glacial relief of Antarctica. Mainstream scientists simply dismiss this fact, calling it nothing more than a remarkable coincidence. But can such a coincidence be random? What is the mathematical probability of a person, while making a mistake or drawing a fictional continent, exceedingly and precisely tracing a coastline that humanity would only be able to see 450 years later using technology that didn't exist even in the wildest fantasies of his time? It is this question that forces us to return to this mystery again and again. And here we return to the greatest mystery of all. Piri Reis himself did not claim to be a discoverer. He was a compiler, a collector of ancient knowledge. He wrote that some of his sources belonged to Christopher Columbus himself, while others were captured from Europeans in naval battles. But the most valuable, he said, were maps drawn in the days of Alexander, son of Philip. This takes us back to the 4th century BC, to the era of the legendary Library of Alexandria, where hundreds of thousands of scrolls from all over the world were stored. What if among them were not just philosophical treatises, but precise navigational charts of the world created by a civilization we consider a myth? A civilization that saw Antarctica as green and flourishing. What if the Piri Reis map is not a cartographer's mistake or a figment of his imagination, but the last surviving fragment of knowledge that has endured through millennia and one or even several global catastrophes? So what are we looking at? The clumsy work of a medieval admiral who simply arranged his parchment poorly? Or is it priceless proof that long before us, a civilization existed with technologies and knowledge that we are only now beginning to rediscover. The Piri Reis map offers no direct answers. It only asks uncomfortable questions. It hangs in the silence of the Topkapi Palace as a silent reproach to our self-assurance, hinting that the pages of our history that we believe have long been written may yet have to be read. So what do you think? Was it just a mistake, an incredible coincidence, or is it the key to unlocking one of humanity's greatest secrets? Write your theory in the comments below. I'm very interested to read your thoughts. And if you enjoy mysteries like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. There are many more unsolved mysteries ahead of us. Thanks for watching.